So this here is, as you've seen in my other videos, is Suomi. I'm probably not doing a good job with the pronunciation, but M31. This is a semi-automatic version of the original KP31, or I guess you could still call it M31, that Finland had in their army, obviously by the name Suomi. I'm going to show you how it works, the semi-automatic version of it, how it compares to the full auto, or select fire, I guess, version of it, and a few things that I'm sure some people have noticed and didn't really know what it's for, and a couple of interesting little, I guess, anecdotes from the design perspective. I'm not going to remember names of people, so I'm just going to mention how little things happened. So we'll start off with the fact that obviously this barrel shroud here, as you've seen in all the videos, is very easy to quickly disconnect from here using the little switch or lever here. Removes, the barrel's easily changeable on it, easily taken off for cleaning or any of that. This one here has got a hole drilled right through the whole thing because, as I said, it's a semi-automatic and in Canada non-restricted version, so I guess in the States it would be one of the, instead of having a short barreled rifle, you would be able to have the barrel sticking out further, making it look really goofy, giving a lot more weight, but keeping you from having to either pay your tax stamp of $200 and getting all your fingerprinting done, or in Canada allowing me to go outside with it and actually shoot somewhere I'd like to shoot rather than gun ranges where I'm stuck in some sort of troll house where there's no lighting or anything. Anyways, let's continue this, keep it as short as possible. This one here has this I guess compensator on it. Interesting enough, I don't know if it was the person who designed the gun or whoever was in the army, mentioned how bad this was and how whoever designed the compensator should have been thrown out, and like basically given a discharge from the army for having created such a bad compensator that gets all iced up and jammed up and everything. The other model that you see is just a cut slant on it, and that one there supposedly was much better. In my case, it does nothing for me. My barrel sticks out past that, so in the end, I'll even grab the barrel and show you. In the end, when you have a barrel doing this, you don't really have to worry about a compensator. Plus the extra weight of the gun doesn't make this thing come up at all. And it's not a full auto, so unfortunately, I can't even see how that would happen. So, as I said, it's pretty useless. Normally the barrel would go just behind here. It's a 12-inch barrel approximately, normally. And the compensator would be somewhat useful, especially I guess in full auto fire. That's enough about that. The next part we'll take off is this. I'm going to pull here because in order to take this off, there's a groove on this which interferes with, so it doesn't come off with the end plug here, so it won't be able to come off without slightly pulling on this, unscrewing it for a bit, so that when it gets to about here you could release it and continue. Obviously it can lead to, and it's happened to me a few times, that I bring it too far back, the back end comes off because of spring pressure that I'm actually putting extra on. So here's to hoping I don't hit myself with it, but so I'll pull it out slightly here. You gotta hold it up against the, if it flies across and breaks something, well, at least you guys will be entertained, right? I'm gonna try here if it's enough, but I don't think it will be. Interesting. Not enough, so I'll pull it further out, another turn, and hope it doesn't come off. Now I'm getting a little worried about this, so there you go. It came off, obviously, as you saw. Luckily I was holding on to it, if not I would have taken it in certain parts of my anatomy that don't appreciate that kind of stuff. As you see, this is a closed bolt gun, which you may have noticed since I was pulling on it. Normally the gun is, I'll take the stock off to start off. Normally the gun's an actual open bolt gun. It's designed for Full auto submachine guns usually open bolt, at least the old ones. This is one of the first ones, which is why they're so heavy. They were made really beefy. So if you ever pick one of these up, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. So let's unscrew this to take the wood off. Once again, very simple. Take that off. Now screw around with this until it comes off. Alright, now I'm going to just move the barrel and stock away. I'm not sure if this was actually on the original one. It may have been. As you see, standard recoil spring. And if I could get the actual bolt out, I'll be happy here. There you go. As you see, the bolt has some things that normally, if you see in the full auto version of it, doesn't. In this case, these have all been remade and built specific so that supposedly you can't fit an original bolt in. I don't have an original bolt, I can't tell you if that's true or not, but these bolts normally don't have a cut like that. That cuts to accommodate a hammer and to allow us to have a firing pin inside. Also, this here doesn't exist on the original bolt. This has been cut down to prevent somebody from using it as a full auto bolt by just modifying the trigger, because usually the sear catches on here. So technically, if it was like that, it would be to catch on here. It's made a little bit differently, obviously, but it would be to catch on a flat surface, and when you pull on the sear, you'd go forward and fire the gun, because normally even the firing pin is a piece that's constantly sticking out. There's no moving firing pin in these ones here. It's just just like I said, a very basic gun for that. Apart from that, the hole was always there because that was where the spring goes through. And this in here just as a buffer, so when it hits an end, you don't have to worry about it. Alright, so that's simple for that. I'm going to go into one interesting part that is completely useless on the gun right now. I don't know the usefulness of it when it wasn't, or when it was a full auto, but apparently it did work since it was used. But it's this right here. If you've ever noticed, these guns have a bunch of holes at the bottom. Nice broken. Don't know if that's gonna, oh yeah, there you go. Anyways, they have a bunch of holes at the bottom. I wanted to mention this in another video, I never made it, which sucks because now I gotta take it apart again. That's just a screw for holding in place the thing. And now if I could get it out. Pretty interesting little device. You'll see why now. As you see, there's a spring on here. And if you look in here, sorry about that, spring's actually holding it the other way. You've got this little piece here which comes off, and there's a bunch of holes. So this piece goes over the holes, and the spring forces it away from the cap. When you fire this gun, the bolt, as you see here, it's been, I think this has been turned down, but the ridges on here make a pretty tight fit for the actual in the actual receiver tube. So as it goes back, there's going to be a lot of pressure from basically like a piston, pushing air back. All this pressure obviously has to come out somehow. So it pushes on the spring, forces this back, which then the air comes out through here and comes out of the holes here. Now when it comes back, when the bolt goes back forward, there's a vacuum forming because, well, normally there'd be a vacuum forming because, like I said, it's a piston, so if you pull on a piston, air is trying to come into the cylinder. This here is now closing back over the holes, preventing the normal amount of air from being able to get back in. This forms a slight vacuum behind the bolt, which means that the bolt is moving forward slower than normal. So in the end, what this is designed for, or to do, is as a rate reducer on the gun. If you didn't have this in and you just had to remove, the gun would fire a lot faster. It'd be less useful to soldiers using them. So how useful it was, I don't know. I didn't really look up any information on how well it works. But like you've seen my video with the VZ with a little hook on it, it does the same sort of thing in a simpler design. And as I said, when you slow down the rate of fire on most of these guns, it's a lot more useful because you have more time to actually use a full auto. If you're using, like the VZ would be, for example, it goes from about 1100 rounds per minute to 900 approximately. Still pretty fast, but at least for a 20 round magazine it makes sense. These guns here ran from 30 round magazines, 50 round magazines, and the 72 round magazines. So you'd have more time, but this way here you weren't wasting as many rounds because pulling the full auto on it would, as I said, this would slow down and slow down the actual firing rate. So that's an interesting little thing. I only learned about that when I was trying to figure out what the hell the holes were for. Next I'll remove this, which is a pain, but we'll do it anyway. It's just one screw here, but it's not the pain part of it. I'm doing this on here because I'm dumb, but most of the time you want to keep the stuff in a good place that you don't have to worry about dropping them and they disappear forever. It sort of saves you money on parts. Anyways, let's get this thing out and show you how the rest of this gun works. Full auto version was a select fire, if I'm not mistaken, at least from the patent designs on it. I'll show you the patent for it. But it's basically 3 different positions, and they used it a lot. Supposedly it was useful for hunting too, according to certain things. But like I said, this whole thing's been changed. Normally there was not a hammer in there, and I'll try to get the patent picture for it so that you guys can see that. Normally to disassemble this completely, you see there's a hole on the side there, and there's a pin. You drive out that pin, well, you can't see it but there's a pin, you drive it out, then this comes off along with the spring, and you're able to pull this whole piece out of the gun. It's not useful to me to do that, so I'm just going to leave it on. Alright, so the groove you see running along here and stopping here is the charging handle groove. So it'll slide across, catch here. Well, technically it's around here anyway, so it'll pull to charge the gun and then release and go there. So the charging handle will stay here. As the gun fires, the bolt will go back and allow your charging handle to stay in position. If not, if it got jammed up or something for some reason, the whole charging handle will come back and hit you in the face. So that's why it's grooved out right to there, so it wouldn't actually get caught up with a bolt coming back. So that's what that part's for. Here's your magazine catch. Very simple one, works well. There's your ejector right there. Like I said, most of this, you've seen it when I told you about the repair here, So, hope you enjoyed this. Hope it sort of explained a little bit more to you about how these guns work.